and Jeremy.
Bonjour, tertarik untuk melanjutkan kuliah di Prancis? Yuk simak apa saja keuntungan jika kuliah di Prancis. Sebagai negara penerima mahasiswa asing terbanyak kelima di dunia, Prancis menawarkan pendidikan berkualitas di berbagai bidang. Kekuatan Prancis dalam perekonomian dunia juga diimbangi oleh penelitian dan inovasi yang terdepan. Saat ini bahasa Prancis merupakan bahasa internasional. Belum bisa bahasa Prancis? Jangan khawatir. Tersedia juga perkuliahan yang 100% menggunakan bahasa Inggris. Jenjang perkuliahan di Prancis dari tingkat D3 sampai S3 menggunakan sistem satuan kredit Eropa yang menjadikannya diakui di seluruh dunia. Prancis menjadi salah satu negara dengan biaya pendidikan terendah di Eropa berkat bantuan subsidi langsung dari pemerintah. Biaya S1 dan S2 di Prancis hanya berkisar 40 sampai 60 jutaan rupiah per tahun. Selain subsidi langsung biaya kuliah, manfaatkan subsidi akomodasi sampai 40%, asuransi kesehatan gratis, subsidi biaya transportasi, dan kegiatan budaya. Anda juga diizinkan untuk bekerja paruh waktu untuk menambah uang saku. Kangen berkumpul sama mahasiswa Indonesia? Jangan khawatir, Perhimpunan Pelajar Indonesia di Prancis menyambut Anda di berbagai kota. Setelah lulus, Anda akan bergabung bersama ratusan ribu alumni Prancis di Indonesia dan dunia bersama platform France Alumni Indonesia. Dan pastinya, Anda dapat menemukan berbagai kesempatan profesional di perusahaan-perusahaan Prancis terkemuka. 5 perwakilan kampus France di Jakarta, Bandung, Yogyakarta, Surabaya, dan Medan siap membantu Anda untuk konsultasi pendidikan tinggi, bimbingan kuliah, pendampingan pendaftaran, dan informasi mengenai pengajuan visa pelajar. Kunjungi www.indonesia.campusfrance.org untuk informasi terkait program studi, beasiswa, cara mendaftar kuliah, dan pengajuan visa pelajar. Jangan lupa ikuti media sosial Kampus France Indonesia untuk mendapatkan berbagai informasi terkini seputar kuliah di Prancis. Merci, kuliah di luar negeri, pilih Prancis.
Because a new page of history gets written every day. Because breaking news can't wait. Information everywhere. In all situations. On every subject. Understanding the world. Imagining the world. France 24, a different take on the news.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.
everyone. Hi, good to see you guys again. My name is Menina Putri Wismurti, and I will be your moderator tonight for the event of the Creative Talk during the Festival Cinema Prancis 2020. And tonight we will talk about the film distribution and market, especially in France and Indonesia, so that we can know and we can also share some knowledge about how is it going on with all this distribution. But before we start, bonsoir to everyone. I would like also to say thank you to Institut Français Indonésie and then also all the partners that have supported the Festival Cinema Prancis 2020. It is quite amazing to have the Festival Cinema Prancis to still happen in times like this. So give a big applause to all the teams here. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting us. And then now I would also like to say thank you to L'Oréal and then to French 24, to CNC, and then also to Unifrance. And there is also Moxie Notion that's also joining us, Miss Nora. And then also we will have Miss Nana. I'm not quite actually familiar with her full name, Gayatri Nadia. I always call her Nana. So yes, and then also we will also be joined by Julian Ezano from the bilateral advisor of the CNC, and then also Jeremy Segay from the Unifrance that is also taking care about all the films in Korea, Japan, and Southeast Asia. But before we start, I would like to probably give you a small example, or probably like a kind of a general example of what is actually film distribution, since I know that most of the audience here are probably not quite familiar with the term itself. So you know that it takes a village to create a film, to make a film. And then in this village, you will need a farmer to basically harvest the rice. The farmer is the filmmaker, and the rice actually is the film itself. And how to get the rice to be marketed in the traditional market. This is basically how and what is actually about the film distribution. How to get the rice from the farmer to go to the market, the pasar tradisional, the warung that we call it in Indonesia. So this is what we are going to talk about tonight. And now with me, there is Miss Nora.
Thank you. Thank you, Putri. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for everyone who is joining us tonight. Back to Putri.
Thank you, Nora. Nora is also the director of the Moxie Notion. I think we go a long way since we were working for the MPAA. And then also we have Julian Ezano from the CNC. CNC is, I hope I get this right in French, Centre National du Cinéma et de l'Image Animée, or in English would be National Center for Cinema and the Moving Image. Hi, Julian. Hi,
you said it correctly. Congratulations.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you. And then also we will have with us Jeremy Segay from Unifrance.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi. Hi, Jeremy. Nice
hello.
to see you again. Hello. I think the last time we
Yes.
met was last year in Cannes. So it's good to see you here.
Exactly. Hello, Miss Nora.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm very good. It has been almost 1 year that I last visited Jakarta. I was there last December.
Yeah, that's true. It's been 1 year already. Wow, time flies. And then also we have Miss Gayatri Nadia from Collective. Hi, Nana.
Hello, hello semuanya. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Now we can actually start with the first presentation from Mr. Julian Ezano. Please, Julian, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Putri. And hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. And I'm sorry I'm not there. I would have preferred being in Jakarta, but it's impossible, as you know. So the idea, Putri, is just, it's two presentations that I will make as fast as I can because I don't have a lot of time. But first would be to make a presentation of the French system, what we call the French system. So I have a presentation maybe we can show the first slide so I can comment and explain. The idea that I would like to explain is that the French film industry is first of all, it's a business, it's a market, of course, with lots of private operators, but there are public operators that are very central and very useful in this system. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the idea is that there are several levels of intervention by public bodies. The first one is the state, it's the government, that will help professionals, mostly of the production sector, production of film, with tools that are government tools, fiscal tools, with tax shelter. We have a tax shelter that's called Sofica, where private investors can put money in film and have a deduction on their tax returns. And there are tax rebates for producers. When they spend money in France, they can have money back. It's more a cash rebate than a tax rebate. It's called tax credit, but in fact it works like a cash rebate. And there are several cash rebates in France, and basically the rate today is of 30% on the spend. Then there is the CNC. The CNC is a system that I will explain later, where we grant money to professionals, to producers, distributors, to many companies. We can give loans free of interest, and we also take care of the regulation of the film industry. We decide how some things work, like, for example, who's entitled to see such film, and so there's a system of classification. Where can you create a new cinema, not to, for example, create a cinema where you shouldn't, etc. So there's a whole world of regulation that we take care of. Then there are local authorities, regions, cities, départements, where there are systems of grants that they give, generally to promote their territory. So you had a talk, or you will have a talk about film locations and the attractivity of a territory, and local authorities are very much interested in promoting their producers and promoting mostly their landscapes, their heritage. And then there are obligations decided by the law. Mostly it's obligations for TV today. TV has to invest part, all broadcasters, most broadcasters have to invest part of their turnover in production. And now there's an obligation for digital platforms, and we are working on those obligations that will be authorized by a new European law. So we can go to the next slide. Of course, I will answer questions later because it's very complex, but I would like just to go fast with the slides. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the CNC is a big body with 500 employees, basically. It's a public body under the authority of the Minister of Culture. But financially, it's a body that's completely autonomous because we raise taxes, we get levies on the industry. So the first one is a levy on ticket admissions. We take some money on each ticket that's sold by a theater, and that brings us, as you see, 150, in 19 at least, it brought us 154 million euros. Of course, this is a presentation of normal times. It's not a presentation about the crisis time. There is a tax on television broadcasters that have to pay a share of their turnover to the CNC. So it was 290 million last year. Television distributors, which is basically the internet boxes that you have at home, where you have a phone, TV, internet, and also telecom providers, they pay a tax on their business that goes to the CNC, 200 million in 19. And video editors, and this is the most dynamic tax because now operators of SVOD are subject to that tax, pay a percentage of their business to the CNC. And then the money is spent on our programs. We take 5% for the overheads of the CNC to pay salaries, the building, IT, etc. And then we spend the money. As you can see, 311 million go to the film industry, where we support theaters, producers, distributors, sales agents, scriptwriters, composers, etc. Film heritage. There is 270 million going to the production of content for TV and digital platforms. And then we have lots of cultural programs supporting festivals, supporting schools, cinematheques, etc., etc., etc. And also film education, many programs. Okay, next slide, please. So I wanted just to make a slide on the level of the taxes that we take. So on the tickets, we take a 10.72% tax. On television broadcasters, it's a 5.65% tax on their global turnover. For television distributors, it's different because the business that they make is not only for audiovisual, but we consider that at least 33% of their business is linked to an audiovisual activity. So, and in function of their size, we take more if they are big and less if they are small. So it goes from 0.5 to 3.5% of their turnover, and with a basis that only 33% of the subscription or the retail price. And then the video, for the video sector, it's a 2% tax. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So the programs of the CNC are basically organized in 3 different manners. Mostly it's automatic aids, automatic support. The idea is that companies generate money with their business. For example, when you release a film in theaters, for each ticket sold, the exhibitor will generate some money, the producer will generate some money, the distributor will generate also, and we keep that money for them as a savings account, kind of savings account. And then they can invest that money that we kept for them in activities. The idea of the allocation is an automatic grant that we give, but there was no generation before. So it's just companies that are entitled, because they are eligible to a specific scheme, they can get some money. So it's not selective, it's not really the traditional automatic, but it's another way of automatic. And then there are selective schemes like in most funds in the world, meaning that the CNC will receive applications, see if an application is fit with our regulation, and we organize the committees. But the committees that decide to support any project, for example, the renovation of a theater or the production of a film, it's a committee of industry people that meet. They have read the project, and they have a discussion, and they identify together the best project to support. And then the CNC will decide the amount to grant. That's how it works, basically. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, that's finished for this presentation, which is very quick, very summarized presentation of the CNC. Now, I would like to talk briefly about distribution in France, because it's the topic of our discussion today. We can go to the next slide. So the market in 19, there was in the presentation of the French Institute already numbers. So we have 2,000 theaters in France, 2,045, and 6,100 screens, with a 6.79 euro average ticket price. And of course, with a very wide variety of prices. It's very cheap for kids, for example, that go on education on film education, but it's very expensive for people who go in luxury theaters to see a blockbuster, etc. The idea is that the trend is less monoscreen, one-screen theaters and more multiplexes. So there is a trend of concentration of the business of exhibition in multiplexes. It's the trend. But still we have a lot of single-screen theaters in France. There are 152 companies that on a regular basis distribute films in France. And the money that they get, the average money that they get for each ticket sold is 2.99 euro per film. That's gross revenue. We can have, if you have questions about the waterfall, we can have a discussion about this if you want. The audience, so it was 213 million admissions in 19, with an increase of 5.9% compared to 18. There was a 34.8% national film market share, a market share of French films. And there was also a 9.6% market share for films that were neither US films, neither French, which shows that there is a real curiosity of the audience for films that are different in a way. 8,198 films released, mostly, so most of those films are either programs of shorts, heritage films, etc. But the new feature films released in theaters were 756. And as you see, it's mostly French films, but also, of course, American films, European films, and 121 films coming from other parts of the world. We can go to the next slide. So the public support that for distributors comes from the CNC. There is some money coming from pay TV, but basically it's managed by the CNC, and mostly the support comes from CNC for distributors. We are talking about the distributors who work on the French market. There is an automatic scheme so the distributor, when he releases a film in a theater, he will generate an automatic account with different amounts according to the number of admissions that he's going to make. So the fewer admissions, the more he generates, and the more admissions in theaters, the less he generates. So it's decreasing. But he generates for each ticket sold up to 1 million tickets sold. The automatic money that he generates, then he can use later to finance either MGs, minimum guaranteed, for the production of a film, or finance P&As when he releases a film and that he needs to spend money on P&As. The selective support, it's the traditional selective support, but it's divided in 5 different sub-schemes in a way. There are specific grants for the release of films for the young audience. It's only film by film. So the distributor will come to CNC with a film, and then the committee will decide if it has to be supported. And it's the same for new films, film by film, or companies can come to the CNC with a program of films that for the year, and they are supported with a bulk amount for, let's say, 10 films that they are going to release in the year. And then they decide how to allocate the money film by film themselves. And it's the same for heritage. They can come either for one film or for a group of film that they are going to release in the year. Okay, next slide. Okay, so those are just examples of films that were supported with the selective scheme to support distribution. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. That's a very interesting presentation, actually. I mean, just to know that in France, you have actually around 6,000 scenes, while in Indonesia, we probably have
Close to 400.
close to 400 screens. That's also like huge screens. No,
Screens.
No, actually not 2,000.
2,000.
Yes, we have 2,000 screens, so it's not even half from what you guys have in France. So this is quite interesting, and also the taxes that you're mentioning is like around 10%, while in Indonesia itself, for the film distribution, the taxes actually very varied and depends on the local authorities. Like probably some taxes in other places are higher, and probably is even lower in other places as well. But that's something that we can talk about later on. And if you guys have other questions too, you can actually also ask in Bahasa, and I will translate it to you guys. Or also if you want to ask in English as well. So yes, now we would like to continue to our next panelist, Mr. Jeremy Segai from Unifrance. Please, Jeremy, the screen is yours.
Yes, hello everybody. I will also present a PowerPoint presentation to introduce Unifrance to the audience. I think the PowerPoint should be played from your side. Let me know when you're ready. Yes, thank you. So this is our logo. So I will be introduced Unifrance. Unifrance is an NGO, and that means that we are not part of the public state, or we don't belong to any public agency, but we are a private entity which the members are from the industry, but of course we receive public funding. Our main sponsor is actually CNC. And the next slide. And Unifrance has been around since 1949, so we are quite old, over 70 years old. And our mission, I will be introducing more in detail, but our mission is actually to promote cinema abroad on the international stage. So that's why CNC is funding our organization, because they think that it might be better to let the industry to organize itself, of course under their monitoring and their direction, in order to promote French cinema worldwide. So this is a picture of a French actress, Juliette Binoche, visiting Taiwan. She's sitting next to the director Hu Xiaoxian, which is a famous Taiwanese director. Next slide, please. So as I was saying, we're a non-profit organization created in 1949. We have about 1,000 members. The members of Unifrance are producers, sales agents, directors, actors, scriptwriters, and so on. Our expertise is, of course, on studies on foreign markets. So our core mission is to monitor and to research the different film market around the world. Our team is about 35 people, and of course the headquarters is in Paris. And we have 3 representatives abroad, one in the US, one in China, and myself covering a huge territory, which is Japan, Korea, and Southeast Asia. Next one. So this is our mission. So first of all is to analyze and report the different data and figures on the performances of French films abroad. So we do a yearly report. Yeah, I will adjust my camera like this. Yes. So we do a yearly report. We run a database also. So on our website, you can find out the date of the release of most of the French films abroad. So you can check for each film which day it was released in Japan, Germany, or Mexico. We run a newsletter for our members, and we collect the international box office. And so this is a service we provide to our members for them to know if they are producer, they know how are their films performing abroad, and if they are sales agent, they can monitor the release date and so on. So those 3, we have a yearly report. It looks like this. So next slide, please. it's a big book, maybe over 300 pages, and we cover in details every territory. So in the next slide, I will show you how the report looks for Indonesia. This one is from 2018. So we collect, of course, the general figures of the country. So in some countries can be challenging because there's no official statistic or official data. But for Indonesia, we still managed to get some figures. So in 2018, there was 1,700 screens. So since now, 2 years later, we have over 2,000. It shows that the Indonesian market is fast growing. And so we report the basic statistic, like the number of screens, average price of tickets, the total amount of admission during the year, and so on. We try also to collect the top 10 films of the year. So in Indonesia, I think in 2018, like in many other places around the world, the #1 film was Avengers. But as we can see also in the top 10, Indonesia is one of the few countries which has a strong film industry and has titles in the top 10. So I think in 2018, there was 2 local films in the top 10. So this is about the general trend of the market. And the next, the slide you're watching now is the one reporting the details of each French film. So that year, the most successful French film in Indonesia was an action comedy called Taxi 5. Next one. Our other mission is to support film festival. So we try to bring support and to facilitate the work of the film festival around the world. We support, of course, the international film festival, but also the French film festival. In order to do so, we have a screening room in Paris. So when a programmer or festival director is visiting Paris, he can use those screening rooms to watch new French titles. So he can book the room for a few days, and he will see a non-stop dozen of new French films which are submitted by a producer or sales company. We also support the festival by sponsoring the air ticket of filmmakers or actors under the condition that their film has the local distributor. So it has to be the case. So the film has to be sold to that country or that territory in order for us to support the trip to visit the festival. And often when we do so, we try to work closely with the local French embassies or French institute in order to coordinate the visit and so on. We also organize our own event, our own film festival, which is the case in Yokohama, New York, Beijing, and so on, and many other places in Europe. Next slide, please. So this is a picture from the French delegation in Yokohama, in Japan, from last year. So it's a mix of very established director, upcoming directors, and of course actors and actresses and producers as well. Next one. So in 2019, we had 320 guests traveling under the sponsorship of UniFrance, and they went to 51 countries. The next slide will be pictures of those guests around the world. So this one is New York. Next one will be Roma, Italy. The following one is Japan. And the next one is in Cannes, because of course Cannes is in France, but it's also important for us to be there and to organize events together with the artists presenting films, so they can also use our facilities and services to reach international media or international industry and buyers. And the next one is China. We also try to promote French cinema on the internet world, and we do have an online event taking place once every year at the beginning of the year. So it's called My French Film Festival. It's an online festival taking place from mid-January to mid-February. where we present a selection of French films. Often is not the most famous films, of course, because those most famous one the right has been sold all around the world. But we try to present appealing and cool French films in order to reach a different type of audience. And so this is a map of the results. So online viewing. In some countries, the films are free. In some countries, the films are not free, so a small fee has to be paid by the viewers. But in Indonesia, I will explain later, we work with SVOD platforms. So the subscriber of those SVOD platforms can reach and enrich the festival in the selection of films. In 2020, so this year, we had 100,000 viewers in Indonesia. But the year before, we did better. We had about double of that, about 200,000 viewers. So this is the platform we work with. So of course we work with the big ones like Google Play, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, iTunes, and so on. And for Indonesia, on the next slide, I will show you the list of the partners we had in the previous year. So in 2019, we worked with a Malaysian SVOD platform, which is also distributed in Indonesia, called iFlix. But they had some business problems, so this year we changed also to a different platform, which is a Singapore-based SVOD platform called Hook. But it's kind of a curse for us because that Hook also got some went bankrupt. So we don't have a partner yet for next year. So we are at the moment discussing different possibilities. But if the panelist or the audience has any suggestion on a useful and a strong and a good SVOD platform, we could partner together to bring those selection of My French Film Festival, which is about 10 feature films and 10 short films available with local subtitles. So in our partnership with iFlix and Hook, we were able to produce subtitles in Indonesian language. Of course, the next slide is, yes, we do also have a specific support for short film and VR. So we have a specific department for that, and same as the feature films, we support the travel of the French short film makers to present their film around the world, and we also try to highlight the French VR production. Next one. So of course, it's also important for us to work closely with the industry, meaning the local distributor in different countries. And we know that it's not easy to bring French film in countries which are very culturally different with France. And of course, in some countries, the local or the domestic production or the American production is very strong. So in order for us to support the distributor and to help them to take a risk to bring a French film, we run different supports. So of course, we can also sponsor the ticket of a director or actor to go for promotion. But the most effective support we propose to the distributor is a selective financial aid for the distribution of French film, which is actually a financial support to cover a part of the P&A. The P&A means the expenses to promote and to bring technically a French film to the country. So in the case of Indonesia, through this financial aid, we were able to support in the last 2 or 3 years those pre-films. So the Hold Your Breath is a one disaster film. The Night Hit the World is a zombie film, but those two films were released by Miss Nola, who is going to speak later, so maybe she will mention about it. And the third one is a romantic comedy. Next, please. We also, in order to reach new distributors or new industry figures, or to focus more on the market, because the company which export French films, they might be familiar with the mainstream markets, but they are not so familiar with, let's say, Southeast Asia. So in order for them to know better those far markets, and in order to meet new potential partners, we organize different events. So of course we are present in the major film market around the world. So we usually set up an umbrella booth in Berlin or Toronto or Hong Kong or Busan. This umbrella booth is used by our members to organize their meetings. So in the next slide, you will see how it looks. So this is from Toronto. So it's like open space with different tables, and the different sales company can take meetings. So usually those meetings is about half an hour in order to introduce their latest titles and to discuss, to have a business discussion. Next one. So I will introduce more specifically what we did in 2019 in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, which was a study tour in order to introduce the Malaysian market to the French sales company and to meet different buyers from all Southeast Asia. And we were planning to do a similar event in Jakarta this year. Because of the pandemic, that was not possible, but we are hoping to do it as soon as possible. So can you rewind a little bit? Yes. Yes. So this is a French delegation visiting one of the largest cinema in Southeast Asia, which is GSC Mid Valley. The cinema has like over 20 screens. Next one. So this is a presentation by GSC, which is the main exhibitor in Malaysia. They were introducing us the different market shares and the different players. Next one. So this is a visit of the big TV company and the radio company. They also are into film production, so they were introducing the different trends on the Malaysian market. And the local film are doing quite well and quite okay, not as good as Indonesian film in Indonesia, but like their comedy and horror films and also animation is doing quite well. The Malaysian animation are doing better than the Pixar or other American animation. Next one. I see the message. Okay, I will go faster. I think I'm going over time. So the next slide, you can see the market events. So the French company meeting with Southeast Asian buyers. We can go faster. Yes, so this is the meeting place, the different meetings. And lastly, I will introduce, okay, yes. So the key figures of French cinema abroad. So in 2019, there was 44 million admission abroad for French cinema. And we can have a look at Indonesian situation for French film. This will be the next slide. Yes. So in 2019, we had 7 French films in Indonesia, and that's count for 700,000 admission. And Indonesia is actually #1 market among all Southeast Asia for French cinema. And the last slide is the number of admission for the French film in the last 6 years. So you can see that the better performing titles are actually the English-speaking French film, because French film can technically be English-speaking. But there was also some interesting success. So it's most often action film or horror films, which do quite okay in Indonesia. That's it for me. And sorry if I went over time.
No worries, Jeremy. Thank you so much for the insights. I think I can share also your frustration in marketing or distributing European films in Indonesia. It's not quite easy when when everything is dominated by the US films here. And then also, it is good to know that there is Unifranc is also actually supporting for support travel in collaboration with Institut Francia Indonesia to all the film festival that's going to bring the filmmakers or film experts from France that actually have a film that's going to be publicly screened in Indonesia. And now we will go also further with Miss Nora, the director of Moxie Notion. And then this actually a local distributor that has already actively distributing European films in Indonesian market. Jeremy has already mentioned the two titles that have been mentioned before, which is La Nuit, The Night Eats the World, and also Dans la Brume, Hold Your Breath. Miss Nora,
Thank
please.
you. I think we have a trailer somewhere.
Yes, I think we do. So yes, we are going to watch a little bit of what Moxinocean did with the French films that has been screened last year.
Yes, so Moxinocean, we started in 2014, and we release about 10 to 14 films a year. Half of that is English and non-English speaking films as well, including French. We've done Iranian, we've done Norwegian, Korean, and a lot of Japanese titles. So having been in the market for a long time, we have generated a good relationship with producers and sales agents, and we keep in contact with them. They give us a list of lineup of films, new films, and so the process begins. Film distribution process begins in conversations with sales agent. It could be at script stage, where the film is not even made yet, it's just an idea. But also we can see promos before the film is finished. Sometimes we see a rough cut of the film before it is finalized, and we acquire films based on those materials.
So, and then also, how do you actually choose the film?
Well, with experience, of course, and knowing the local market, especially for Indonesia, it's for us the safest genre to acquire is either horror films or disaster films. And so when we choose a film that is not English or European films like French films, like the two that we did, we are a beneficiary of the Unifrance financial aid for Hold Your Breath and The Night Eats the World. If you see those two examples, they are horror films. It's a zombie film, which is very rare for French cinema, and then also Hold Your Breath is disaster films. So those are the two type of films where we see there is, it's bringing in a different type of film to Indonesia, which is not English films, but at the same time the genre has a market in Indonesia. So it's still very risky, but it's a risk that we can manage. We know there's a market for it, and so we try to market it, and it works for us.
All right, and then how did it go with those two films?
We're happy with it.
I'm happy too.
And with bringing in this type of films, like trying to find a common ground where bringing in non-English films, or trying to create diversity in terms of what is being screened in the cinemas, and also getting genres that have an audience here. It's kind of a balance, and hopefully if we can do more of this, we will be able to introduce more variations, maybe like a good drama, good story, and things like that. Because for now, it's very, very challenging to to try to sell non-English that is not horror or not disaster film.
Okay. So in the past, from 2014 until today, what are the most challenges that you faced in terms of distributing French films?
Well, we only did 2. But as a whole, every film is a challenge for us because they are not really mainstream films, and some of them even not English-speaking films. But each film presents a challenge that we, as an independent distributor, we try to find ways. We try to find the communities who has interest in this type of films. And well, we speak very loudly on social media, as much as we can, and that seems to be the best way for us.
Okay, and then how did it go also with the exhibition of the films? Like, what is the warung of this film?
Most of our films go to CGV cinemas, Cinepolis. There's Flick cinemas. There is Platinum cinemas. There's Kota cinemas. So like, the big 2 exhibitors are Cinepolis and CGV, but they're small, they're independent cinemas. They're also smaller circuits which are growing. So we do okay. Yeah.
I also understand that the limitation of screens and theaters in Indonesia is part of the challenge.
Yes, so there are about 400 cinema locations, 400 plus cinema locations, and close to 2,100 screens as of Q1 2020. And as the local film production is growing, and I'm happy for them. Finally, we have more better films coming out from the local producers. But it means that between the U.S. blockbusters and the local films, we get very small space to put in our films. But we manage to get good screen coverage, get good support from CGV and Cinepolis mostly. And so so far it has been we've managed to survive.
That's good to know.
We will see after this.
I'm sure we will find other warung or outlet to screen the film.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and also you mentioned earlier that during this process, like there's actually a process that you were involved in the distribution since a very early step. Like I believe that you were already involved since the script being made in the movie La Nuit, right?
Yeah.
And then also, but then for the other films, the treatment are quite different.
Yeah. So for The Night Eats the World, we got involved at script stage. Well, there was already a like visuals promo of it. So based on the script and based on the trailer that was available maybe 1 year or more before the film release, we already got interested in the film. And also with Hold Your Breath, it's almost the same. It's also script and promos that we saw. So at that stage, we haven't seen the full film yet, but we believe that with what we saw, the quality of the production, how it looks like, we are happy with it. And by reading the script, we know how the story goes, how fast or how slow, and we kind of can make a decision based on those, which is actually already at a late stage, because a lot of film buyers, they acquire from just the script and a poster. And an idea.
And a poster.
Yeah. not even a final poster, like a draft poster.
Yes. All right. I mean, that's good to know, so that the other filmmakers here can also prepare actually the posters if they want to get some other
yes.
international distributor to actually join and participate in distributing their films. That's really interesting, actually. And then also we, as Jeremy mentioned earlier, that we have also other films. French film Love at Second Sight. I think that's by the CBI Pictures, right?
Yeah.
And then yes, it was also screened at the CGV and Cinepolis too. And for these two specific titles, before we go to the next panelist, how do you treat it as in promotional strategy? Like, do you, because both are actually a kind of genre and theme that's quite familiar with Indonesian audience. Do you have specific strategy?
Well, over the years, we have been known to be distributor for horror films.
Yeah.
So our
And
social,
anime.
yeah, and anime, and so for our social media is being stalked by horror fans, and that's how
Including me?
Yes, and that's how we communicate, and we try to find communities like with The Night Eats the World. It's a zombie film.
Yes.
So we work with, zombie communities, and, we send them out to the streets in zombie costumes.
wow.
And
Okay.
during the premiere as well, we have like a few zombies roaming around Grand Indonesia.
So like people in cosplay and then,
Yeah.
oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Okay, and yes, thank you, Nora. We will go to the next panelist. And also, if you guys wants to send a question to our panelists tonight, you can actually put it in our Q&A feature in the Zoom. If you see in below, there's actually Q&A, and then the team of Ify will read it to me and put it in this television teleprompter over here. Okay, and now we will go to our next panelist, Nana, or Miss Gayatri Nadia from Collective. Collective itself is actually a local distributor that is more independent and try to distribute the films not only in Jakarta but also rural areas. Nana, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you, Putri, and thank you everyone who's attending this session. I'm Gayatri Nadia. As Putri already mentioned, people call me Nana from Collective. I would introduce more about what is Collective and what we do. But before that, could you please play the trailer that we have? Okay, thank you. So as you watch, the trailer is a trailer from the films that we distribute. As mentioned before, Collective is an initiative distributor in Indonesia. If Manora already mentioned, Moxie Notion is independent distributor. We're even like smaller than Moxie Notion. But if we're talking about the distribution in Indonesia, not the film with the English speaking, we do that because what we do is distribution of the Indonesian film, which is not easier than distribute the English speaking film, because as we know that the how big is the country, how the variety and the diversity of the country itself is already the challenge. So maybe please give the first slide. Yeah, so if you see this title, some of you might know the title is screened in the cinema, like in the major exhibitor. But since 2014, as the Collective established, the idea is to have this initiative distribution is to have more audience to meet the film that might not screen not have the opportunity to screen in the major cinema, like the chain cinema. And also, how about the other films like short films, documentary? There is also, people keep saying it's an art house cinema or it's a festival kind of cinema that might not have the bigger audience that attract the exhibitor to screen it. So that's how Collective been born at that time. And until now, it's been our 6 years and still struggling, but we still believe there's a way for that. So some of this title, if you see on the screen, maybe only like 2 or 3 films screen in the major cinema, but the rest is either shorts or documentary, or we also try to reach out the international distributor to screen the film in the smaller exhibitor. So what we do is to have the collaboration with the local cinema community or local venue with maybe only have like less than 50s occupancy, 50. And also now the people also want to have the intimate screening for their event, or they want to have a screening with the international title. They're not screened in the major cinema. That's how we do as well. So the main idea of Collective is to screen more Indonesian film to the Indonesian market, but also to have the variety of the film itself for the Indonesian audience, but maybe only known in the big city, while the other city might not have the cinema. So how we do it? So we collaborate with the community. The community itself, some still parallel with the university, but also they try to have like micro cinema in the capital city in the island or in the region, like in Jakarta. We work together with Kinosaurus, one of the micro cinema in Jakarta, and also like Kinoforum, also owned by the Jakarta Art Council. But also, if we see bigger, there are also some of the other micro cinema, like in Bali. We have Mini Kino, which they also have the Mini Kino Film Week. They also have the mini cinema. And also if we see in Bandung, still in Java, they have the local, owned by the government. They have a very nice theater building that also screen the film. But we talk about the island itself. If you know that Indonesia has 17,000 islands, so we have to reach out to them, because some of them might not have the access and the opportunity to reach out the producer to have all those films. And it's such a lot of work for them to reach out each of every title. Even just like the one that you see on the screen, it's only like 15. But for now, we distribute more than 100 titles, and that's how we do. And yeah, it's still struggling. So maybe we'll see to the next slide how it's actually see the spread of the Indonesian community and the collaboration that Collective have been made in the past 6 years. So if you see the map and you see like the dots in the island, it's how we collaborate with each, at least in the island. If you see, Java is very diverse with the community, but if we go to the bigger island, Borneo, it's only few of them already have like a micro cinema, or even less. If we can say that it's a micro cinema, maybe it's not. Some of them, it's just the garage with the with a mat where everyone can actually sit, but they enjoy it and they have it every week. Before the pandemic, I managed to do the traveling for one of the films we acquired last year. If you see, it's on your right below. It's in the East Nusa Tenggara. It's in Kupang. They call it the Komunitas Film Kupang. They have the Friday in the garage, literally translated, where everyone is actually come every Friday around like 7. But I become the witness myself, where everyone is just like, can I buy the ticket for tonight's show? And then they bought it, and they just like, okay, so what's the film again? So they don't know, but that's like the habit. And it's not, maybe not so really common habit if we go to the small city, because some of people in the big city just go to the cinema, to the mall, then they say, oh yeah, there's a film today, and then I just want to watch it. But to have the idea of the habit watching film, it's because of the film, it's still challenging. And that's why collective also exists. And also not just screen the film, we also do the capacity building for the community. The capacity building covers the production. So we also invite the filmmaker who collaborate with us, and then make a workshop, and we do this annually every year. Of course, a lot of things changing this year, but we're not gonna stop. So lastly, next please. So there's a silver lining in everything, of course. So every year we have this kick-off event where we have like a mini festival called Film Musik Makan, translated in film, culinary, and music, where of course we screen the films, and then there's a collaborative event with the musician and also people who sell food, something like that. But apart from that, we would like to have the urge and the thirst of the needs of film is as much as we need food or music in our everyday life. And every year we do it on March. Originally, it's because March itself is a celebration of the National Film Day on the 30th. But apart from that, it's a good to kick off for all of the film that Collective will distribute along the year. And it's like a mini premiere. So before the pandemic attack, we managed to do it in this March, and we screen it in Goethe House. We usually go to the other city to have the mini festival itself in a local partner. So unfortunately, this year we only managed to do in 2 cities, which is both in Sumatra, in Padang, and in Palembang. But then we haven't screened that much afterwards. Usually we do to 5 to 10 cities along the year. So yeah, what we think this year, we're not gonna stop as part of the innovation that we might think for later next year. And maybe to slightly answer what Jeremy asked before, we want to adjust ourselves in terms of the habit of the how people watch cinema. It's going to be online. Then it's not gonna make Collective vanish, but we have to adjust. We might be the partner of the My French Film Festival, probably. So that's how we try to adapt. We don't know yet, because in the past 8 months, we do some of the online screening, but for sure, it's not really like the recent films, because of course, a lot of filmmakers still want to hold their films. But also we think that it's going to be bigger. We can screen a lot of films. We don't need to be in particular city to screen some of the films. We can do it everywhere, as much as we want to make it everything secure. And also, we started already like last week to screen some of the international titles, because we also collaborate with some of the international sales and distributor to screen some of the international titles to Indonesian audience. So yeah, I think it's a little bit about Collective. I would like to have more question and discussion later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Nana. That was very frank. That was very frank presentation, I think, and that's really actually give a deeper insights to what we are facing right now in Indonesia in terms of film industry and also film distribution. And it is good to know that what you mentioned before about habit of watching films in Indonesia, where people just basically go to cinemas, which mostly are located in the malls, as we very rare have a standalone cinemas in Indonesia, and they just choose from probably the posters, or probably just looking at the trailer or the title, or just see if there is a ghost in the poster or not. So that's pretty much our attitude. And yes, I agree with you also that we need to, in times like this, I think we need to adjust our perspective in watching film, and also treating films in the film industry as everything are very much challenging. I can very much feel with you on that part. And apparently we have already questions. Wow. Okay. I will try to read it. Bonjour, my name is Wan Fajar from Semarang. I would like to ask, how can we understand and how can we know about the market, the film market in our society, so that the film can be distributed quite well and that the audience would like to watch the films? Because apparently Wan Fajar from Semarang is facing challenges in watching, in persuade all the general audience to watch European films in Semarang. Maybe we can start with Nora?
Yes, it's challenging. I hear you. But it takes time to build an audience. It takes time to build a new behavior. So, and it's a long road. So my advice is to keep doing it and keep doing it smart, and try to reach out to cultural centers, to reach out to Europe on screen, and try to find where your audience is. And also, I guess social media is also one way of doing it. Find a way to do it smartly and target it correctly as much as you can, and it will build up. But it's not you have a film, even if it's a good film, and then people will come. No, you have to have consistently, have good films, and then the audience will build up over time.
Okay, and that's a perspective from Nora. And then what about you, from Nana? Maybe from the local distributor who specifically have a niche market on Indonesian films.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to say in Semarang, we also have a partner called Sinerum. If you may be familiar with, they're very active doing all the screenings in the past few years. So what's the experience that we have to introduce any unfamiliar content? It doesn't have to be international title, even the local title also challenging. So usually what we do is tap into the content and the context, how we gonna persuade people to watch by talking about the context. Like one of the film that we acquired since 3 years ago called Possessive, it's huge in cinema, but again, the number is not really like a box office, but we can still talk and screen the film with the idea of talking about the toxic relationship. We can talk about the love drama in high school teenagers, or even like the film about one of the film, short film called The Fox Exploits the Tiger's Might. It's the film actually get into Semain de la Critique, but also it's not familiar. Like, why I want to watch the film about teenager? No, it's not just about the teenager, but the issue is about LGBT. It's also talking about the power and also about minority. We talk about the issue, then we offer the film. That's how we do it to bring more audience with the non-familiar content. But also to be exact, in Semarang, what our partner did, it's very interesting how they tap into the local festivity. It doesn't have to be the film festival, but the festivity that very local. Like Sinerum, as our partner, always tap in with the local government to do the Festival Kota Lama, or the old city kind of festival. Of course, you're not only screen the local titles. They talk about the ancient, the heritage of the city of Semarang, but why don't they talk about it with the other films? Because last time they screened Japanese film. I don't know what's the perspective that might fit in well, but there's the experiment. I mean, we can always find the connection between the content that people believe in the market at that time, and also bring that belief in the government who can give the funding or something like that. That if you believe it, I think they will get it. So that's the experience.
Yes, I also agree with you, Nana. And also, Wan Fajar, maybe I'll actually, this is a good time to promote my festival that will be open tomorrow, Europe on Screen. And you can bring actually your friends to be more familiar with European films in the Europe on Screen to 2020 edition. And we will also have actually 4 French films to be screened in that. And then you can watch it online at the festivalscope.com, and you can also check what kind of films, what kind of European films that are going to be screened in our website as well, and europeonscreen.org. So next, we will go to the next questions. It's from Ali Jaya. Ali wants to know, I would like to know how CNC is established. So this question goes to Julian. When, how, and why? Because as far as I know, in Indonesia, we don't have public institution like CNC that gives grants to the production, to the film production and manages taxes and so on. Maybe you could give an insight to this issue, and then maybe our government could take some examples from that. Interesting. I hope some people from our government would listen to this session tonight. And also, is there any difference between distributing Indonesian film to Indonesia and Indonesian film to other countries? Okay, I think the second question from Ali will be directed to Nora and also to Nana. And the first one will go to Julian. Julian, please, the screen is yours.
The CNC was created just after Second World War, like Unifrance. It was created in 1946, and the principle of taxation was created in 1948, when we created the first tax on admissions. So we have been interested for many years to talk with the Indonesian authorities, and we have been talking a lot to Bekraf and trying to promote public regulation and trying to convince Indonesian authorities to do similar things. And we are still interested in talking with the Indonesian government, Indonesian authorities, to share our experience and help, maybe if they're interested, help them build a similar system, because it's a matter, actually it's a matter of political will. Do you really want to do it, or do you prefer to leave everything to the market? You don't get the same results when you leave the market act for you. When you have public policy, you can do a lot more than the market, because when you leave the market act, then the risk is to have the dominant companies, the powerful films, the powerful companies occupy the whole market. When you have public action, then maybe you can see that the audience can access a diversity of content. That's the purpose, is to please the audience. So we'll always be here to help the Indonesian authorities to build something.
Great, Julian. Thank you so much for that. And maybe also I would like to add the questions that coming from Ali as well. Can also CNC help in terms of co-production? Because I know in your background you were also handling co-production.
Yes, I saw that you had a panel on co-production. So we act a lot in the field of co-production, and concerning Indonesia and Asia, and you know that we have a scheme that's called Aide au Cinéma du Monde, that's precisely aimed at supporting the production of films originating in other countries. So, for example, we supported Marlina. That's why I had the picture of the film behind me earlier. I think, and so we support a lot of movies coming from everywhere in the world, we work with something like 100 countries in terms of authors. So films coming from Asia, from Africa, from Latin America. And we can put grants. The average amount today of a grant from Aide au Cinéma du Monde is 130,000 euros. And the idea is that you have to spend half of that grant on French spent, meaning either you work with French people on the set or you do all the post-production or part of the post-production in France. It's one of the ways to co-produce. There are other financial tools, but the most obvious for Indonesian authors is to find a French co-producer and apply for Aide au Cinéma du Monde.
All right, thank you, Julian. And then also the previous question was not answered yet, and actually it's about distributing Indonesian film in Indonesia and also to other countries. Maybe Nana from the collective have the experience for that?
Okay. So for the Indonesian film to screen in Indonesian audience, it's it's another silver lining for not having the major cinema screen them for quite a long time. You know, if you know the habit of the cinema release on Thursday, usually Indonesian film on Thursday, and they have to survive until that weekend, and otherwise they will drop for the other film in the schedule. So that's how a lot of people didn't get a chance to see a local film in their city, especially when the city has no cinema chain. So that's how we try to penetrate the market. So, but now it's a good thing also for Indonesian film has a lot of opportunity to screen in the chain cinema, but also since our country it's big and the access is still limited for the film industry, that's how we have to engage and collaborate more with the smaller cinema or a smaller community, because the perks of our distribution approach is we're not depend on the length of the screening in the cinema chain. So, but again, we can always recycle the titles when you have the special occasion like Hari Ibu, the Mother's Day, or a day of Indonesian cinema celebration. That's how the old film, or even not the recent film, can always screen every year. So we always keep recycling the film as well. And about the Indonesian film in the international audience, for collective, as we are focusing on the Indonesian distribution, some of our film has their own international distributor. So we don't, probably like some of the titles, we don't screen it outside the region or outside the country because they already have the distributor. But for the other film that's not have the sales or the distributor yet, we keep promoting with our partner. Some of them, like the Alliance Française in Japan, we have several screening with them every year for some of the title we distribute, and also shorts. Sometimes we focus a lot in short films, because most of the short films in Indonesia, they don't have the international sales yet. So that's how we work. We try to look at the opportunity in any way. If we can have like Marlina already have the international sales, of course, then we try the other titles that might not been screened in that region or in the country. So yeah, hope that will answer.
Yes, that's a pretty effective answer, Nana. And now let's go to the next questions. Hi, I am Lucy. I would like to ask to Mr. Julian or Mr. Jeremy, what do you think about how to increase the popularity of French films on the world market in the next year? And what solution will be made in the next year of French film distribution due to the COVID-19 pandemic? Maybe maybe Jeremy can actually answer first.
This is a tough question. Of course, we cannot distribute ourselves the film, so we have to rely on partners. So I believe our effort should be made on reach and to facilitate the work of the partners we have already, and to reach new ones. So that's why we are trying to do. So we try to reach the new market, especially the emerging markets such as Indonesia. But we also understand we have to be patient because, as people have, other panelists have mentioned, number of screen is still slow, and we know also that at first the audience will turn themselves to local or American contents. And so I believe we should try to do our best to facilitate the work of the partners, and also to convince different partners that French film is very diverse, and there's different type of French films. And of course, French cinema can be known for his art house works and different type of stereotype of titles. But we do have films which are super commercials, or we have films for everyone and every market. It's just a matter to let the people know about it.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. And Julian, probably you could also add some of this, the answer for this question.
No, it's really Jeremy's prerogative. What we do is on top of the Unifrance actions to promote our films, we have at the CNC specific schemes to support sales agents. So because it's a business with a lot of risks, and so we have decided to create schemes to subsidize the activity of sales agents. So the agents that sell films, they have access to an automatic account that's generated according to their success internationally, and it's money, the money that they generate, they can use to finance P&As and finance MGs as well. So there are something like 6 to 8 million euros dedicated to sales agents of films. And we also support the sales agents specialized in television content. And I think it's a very important action to support the activity of agents that need to spend money for the promotion. And Jeremy just mentioned the promotion. It's crucial to let people know that there's a diversity of content in the production, in the French production, and also provide all allows agents to be present in the biggest number of markets possible, etc. And so that's what we do. So we both work, CNC and Unifrance, on this issue of the promotion and the export of content. But I think there is something that's very important to bear in mind when you think international markets, is that when you produce, when you write, when you develop a project, it's better to integrate those issues of international markets in the conception of a film, because when you make a film that's impossible to sell, it's too late. And we have an expression in French. We say it's impossible to make a donkey drink water when he's not thirsty, meaning that if the film is impossible to please the Indonesian audience, for example, you will not force the audience to watch it, and you will not force a distributor to buy. You need to propose films that distributors want to buy. Yes. So it's something to think beforehand, before it's too late.
Yes, that's a really good answer, actually, Julien, and also Jeremy. Thank you. And then the next question is actually from from Donny Martin Sitompul. I am expecting more French movies on Netflix because it's very popular in Indonesia. I like the series like Di Sang, for example, any plan to put more French movies on Netflix? Maybe I can actually, or maybe other OTT platform. This question maybe could go to Nora. And then also, I think Nora can also answer the second one. How do French film compete with American film in Indonesia? And how do you tackle with cultural differences and sensitive religion-related issue in Indonesia? Very interesting questions, I would say. So, yes, Nora, please, the screen is yours.
So, okay, how do you tackle cultural differences? I think each film has different issues that they convey. Some of them are not suitable for Indonesian market, but actually a lot of them, you know, it speaks broadly and universally, and it's just because it's a French film or a German film, there are a lot of universal issues that are being conveyed in all those films. How do French compete with U.S. films? It's not a competition.
It's not an apple to apple.
Yeah, it's not apple or orange. So I think for every film there's a market for it. It's like, how do other U.S. films compete with Avengers? You don't compete against. You try to find a market for it, especially when it's American films and French films. It's very different. And so the way you approach it is different. It's about finding the right market for it. It's knowing what your audience is like, what they want. And, like Julian was saying, you cannot force.
Yeah.
So when you introduce a foreign film, French film, you want to introduce a French film that has some similarities.
Yes.
Or issues that the local audience would familiar with or interested in. So, for example, like what I do is, I know people like horror films, so that's how I introduce French films into Indonesia. But it's just a start, like a tip of the iceberg. Eventually, we hope to be able to get people to see other, genre of French films. And not it's because like, oh, it's a French film, it's you have to read subtitles, and there's a barrier there. But when we continue to release films, subtitled films that people like, they understand what it is, and if we do it for hopefully a long time, then eventually it creates a market of audience who wants to experience a different type of film, not just American films.
Yes,
or Avengers.
Yes, that's true. I mean, like, for example, if you go to cinema and then you see all the American films and everything like the same titles, and sometimes I was just like, oh my God, I got so confused. Like, can I watch other films than just American films, right? So, and then also the first question, Nora, is actually a plan to put your French films on the Netflix.
Well, it's a different type of conversation. I think Netflix, especially in Netflix and French movies, I think that conversation happens at the top level where usually Netflix buy worldwide rights and they talk to straight to the producers or the French sales agents. So, yeah.
All right. Okay, I hope that answers your questions, Donnie. And then the next questions. Okay, I think this is quite similar than the previous one, but this will go to Julian. What do you think of Netflix and many other streaming services as alternative for worldwide distribution of feature films? Is it a disruption for French cinema or another support of the French cinema? And how do you see this, knowing the circle of film distribution is already full and solid before streaming era? Okay, so I guess what Ranti, isn't it? the name? Yeah, Ranti. Ranti wants to know about whether the alternative streaming services or alternative shop or warung for a French film, is it supportive or a disruption for French cinema? This question I think could go both for Julien and also for Jeremy.
I can start maybe.
Yeah, sure. Please.
Okay. Ideally, for us, a feature film should be released in cinemas. During the crisis, of course, we had to shut down cinemas, so people started watching a lot more digital platforms, and some of those films that were in theaters already in theaters during the pandemic, and theaters were shut down, were sometimes shown on Netflix. That was fine with us. Today, a film that makes the choice of a distribution on Netflix rather than a theater distribution makes a financial choice, meaning that you will get Netflix money and give up CNC money, let's say, when it was cinema money. And Netflix and other platforms like Prime, Apple, etc., they are a fantastic opportunity for creators. And today we are working on a law that is going to force those platforms that already contribute financially to the CNC budget. We are going to force them to invest in the production of content. They are going to have obligations for their own window, meaning that they have all the absolute exclusivity of the work, and generally with worldwide rights. And they will also have obligations to invest in film, meaning that they will have an obligation to invest in films that will have a first showing in theaters and then a career on other platforms. So yes, they are a fantastic opportunity, and it's a challenge also for producers and authors to create, tell stories and produce in a way that's consistent with standards that are quite high, because they are international. So it's very interesting opportunity. But in our minds, I mean, we don't know the future, but the system of SVOD platforms and the world of traditional exhibition will coexist, hopefully.
Okay, Julien, thank you for the answer. Maybe Jeremy wants to add some answer from your perspective.
Yes, I believe most of the French film people will agree that the first choice should be for a film to be shown in the theaters. We have, of course, many examples of how Netflix was able to bring French content all over the world with a great success. But I believe it's like Julien said, it's a call of the producer to make a choice. And often the directors themselves, they still prefer the big screen experience. And it's also a matter not to put all the eggs in the same basket. So I believe it's a kind of a balance, and should be considered case by case. There was a few examples of French films sold to Netflix or other platforms. Then those films could not be screened in festivals, could not be released by local distributors. Although there was a local distributor very keen to acquire the film. So it's difficult for us to know which scenario is the best. If it's like a global promotion by Netflix or case by case in different countries by local distributors. The problem for our members is that Netflix doesn't really share the data. It's very difficult for a producer to know how many views, how many times this film has been shown. And also, since myself, I'm taking care of Southeast Asia, I have the impression, maybe I'm wrong, that Netflix is quite expensive platform. And there's much more affordable local platforms, which might be more efficient to reach a new audience. Because I believe in Indonesia, not so many people can afford to pay $15 per month for Netflix.
Yes.
And the other platforms are maybe 5 or 6 times cheaper. So we try to work with those local platforms as well.
Yes, Jeremy, I agree with you. The Netflix platform in Indonesia is basically quite pricey, and then also I'm actually on board with you by supporting the local also platform streaming in others than Netflix. It's not that I'm against Netflix though, but I think it would be actually more accessible to our audiences, especially not only in the big cities like in Jakarta or maybe Bali, Medan, but also to other regions as we have 17,000 islands, imagine that, but very limited cinemas, unfortunately. So yes, yes, the team here has actually already notified me that to apologize because we couldn't answer all of your questions due to the time constraint. And now, actually, okay, so we will not have, okay, right. So then, yes, so everyone will get the L'Oreal package. So it's good to know that everyone will get all the L'Oreal package. That's also part of the supporters, the loyal supporters of Festival Cinema Prancis, as far as I know. And so yes, I think it's about time to wrap up the sessions. Has been a very interesting, actually. It's also given me a lot of insights on the French and Indonesian film distribution. With the mainstream films and then also the local perspective with what Nana has already shared with us. So I think I agree also with what Julian said, that we need to integrate the international market to the film if we want also Indonesian film to be accepted abroad, and then also we cannot force films to be watched to the audience. Of course, we need to find some kind of familiarity and then also some kind of related or films that resonates to each of the audience. And like what Nora did with the Moxie Notion, she has tried the strategy also and to survive with also how to bring a different genre of French films or European films. For example, like the disaster film and then also horror film and an action film, which also basically in relation to what Jeremy said, that the box office in Indonesia for French film is Taxi 5, which actually a combination of action and comedy. And also I believe we have also taken as part of action a thriller film French that also part of the box office in Indonesia. And thank you so much. I think we have learned a lot for the film distribution. That again, what I have tried to actually convey in the beginning, that when you see a film, it really takes a lot of village. It's a lot of support from every individual that participate, not only from the production team when the film being made, but after the film finish, we need a lot of support from distributors like Nora, and also distributors like Nana, and also the support of the government like what CNC did and what Unifrance did. I do hope that Indonesia could learn something from this, because we used to have what kind of similar to what CNC and Unifrance has with the BPI and then also with the Backcraft. But unfortunately, at this moment, those two institutions are being froze, I think. But also, we hope that, I do hope that actually a lot of distributors and also film stakeholders in Indonesian film industry could take something from this session and from the creative talks. And we still have a lot of creative talks, right, guys? Until, yay, okay. So please, we have another two, right, okay. So yes, we will have other interesting talk about film industry, especially in relation to French and Indonesian film industry tomorrow, and then also on the 17th about restoration, right? And tomorrow is about, I forgot what is tomorrow. Right, so tomorrow is about film commission. This is actually even more important for all of our audience, and I do hope I crossing fingers that best Indonesian government could also watch this session and to learn something from the French film industry. I think we really need what this kind of supports, especially for Indonesian film industry that has grown so rapidly at this moment. Even though right now I can totally understand that cinemas are still closed, and maybe also Nora and Nana can actually find other alternative. So my last question actually to all of these panelists is, what is your future plan, especially in times like this, before I close the session? Nora, maybe you can begin?
For us, we obviously we try to get our films to the streamers.
I understand you will have a new film coming.
Streaming platforms.
Yes.
And I have to say, honestly, it's very challenging. It's very hard because most of our films are non-mainstream films. And so there's not that many avenue apart from theatrical. So streamers is one way of doing it, but we do have to find other ways how we we kind of get up from the pandemic, and how to sustain and keep growing after that.
Right. And then for those information, the audience can actually follow your Instagram or social media?
Yes, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, so check us out.
At Moxie Notion.
At Moxie Notion, yes.
All right. And then also for Nana, what is actually your plan in times like this?
Okay, I would like to take this opportunity also to promote our upcoming event this by the end of November. We still have, it's called Semester Pendek, or it's like a summer school it's a film competition and screening. It will be online for university student, and will be our very first online screening. I'm so excited, but still nervous. But if you ask for the plan, the plan is to survive, actually. The plan is to survive and not to die. And by how, we will try everything. So I hope that answer.
Nana, thank you so much. Yes, I hear you and we feel you to survive and not to die during this pandemic, actually. And Jeremy and Julian, do you have a last word to say to our audience here?
Yes, well, for me, it's looking forward for Indonesian cinema to be back at full capacity. I understand some locations are open, but run under 25 or 50% capacity.
Yes.
That's the case in Japan. I think it's one of the few countries in Asia, or even in the world, which can run at 100% capacity under the condition that the cinema doesn't sell food or drinks. If it sells food or drinks, they have to be under 50% of capacity for each room.
Ah, okay. That's good to know. Yes. And Julia?
So for us, we would be happy to work more and more regularly with Indonesia, with the Indonesian government, and cooperate more. And of course, because it's a very impressive, promising country that's fast growing, and it's an audience of tomorrow for our films, that for sure. And we also would be very happy to co-produce more with Indonesian authors. So we are waiting for your projects.
Good to know. That's actually an open opportunities, guys. So for all of you filmmakers, also look out and follow both of the Instagram or social media account of the CNC and also Unifrance. So yes, my teleprompter is already beeping. Everybody was just like doing this. Thank you so much to all the speakers, to Julia Ezano and from CNC, and also to Jeremy Segai of Unifrance. Thank you so much. And also for Nana from Collective, thank you so much. And Nora, it's been a pleasure actually to share the stage with you tonight, so I'm not alone. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you. And still follow Instagram at EV Indonesia for the next program of Creative Talks in the series of event of Festival Cinema Prancis 2020. I'm Putri signing off, and see you guys around. Ta-ta.